Socialization is a process whereby individuals are made aware of behaviors that are expected of them with regards to the norms, beliefs, attitudes, and values of the society in which they live. Socialization helps the individual face the realities of life through the appreciation of their culture practices. The agencies of socialization are the social institutions that pass on to the people these norms, values, beliefs, and attitudes. There are several agencies of socialization which are developmental, anticipatory, resocialization, reverse, primary, and secondary socialization. However, the main agencies are those regarding primary socialization, which is the process where people learn attitudes, values, and actions appropriate to individuals as members of a particular culture. Secondary socialization agencies are important too. These agencies are responsible for the processes in where individuals learn appropriate behaviors as members of a smaller group within the larger society. Under the primary agencies are the family, peer groups, and opinion leaders. The family is the most integral part of every individual's upbringing, thus one of the most important agencies of socialization. The family has the power to influence an individual's self-concepts, emotions, attitudes, and behaviors. Peer groups are made up of people with similar ages and statuses in society. This group also sets the norms and values by which the individual must abide. Under the secondary agencies of socialization are the work environment, education, mass media, and religion. Sex and gender roles are the other important agencies that we shall be discussing in this lesson. Sex and gender identity. Every society has a systematic way to deal with sex or gender roles. In other words, every culture has a process by which it prepares the children to play the roles that society expects and requires of them as adults, and these roles vary according to sex, ethnicity, and social class, etc. Of course, sex is almost universally the most basic category and refers to biological differences. That is, differences in their bodies between men and women, while gender refers to the social differences assigned to sex. In other words, it refers to the division between masculine and feminine roles, tasks, attributes, etc. For example, the division of sexual labor refers to the fact that women bear children and men do not. This division is based on biological differences. The sexual division of labor or gender-based division, on the other hand, refers to different tasks, such as agricultural work being masculine and household work as feminine. This division also includes traits which as aggressiveness being masculine and submissiveness being feminine. Of course, the sexual division may vary among societies and social groups. The success of socialization process is indicated by the studies which show that gender identity is the unchanging core of the personality formation and is firmly established in the early stages of one's life. However, although biological differences between men and women are universal, there is differentiation of roles by gender across cultures and societies. This is because when biological differences are projected into the social sphere, they give rise to masculine and feminine roles, although they are not innate. Anthropologists have given examples from different cultures to demonstrate variation in sex roles from one culture and society to another. For example, in the hunting societies, while the male folk took active role in the hunting, in making tools and weapons, females are mostly passive. Their females took active roles in the reproductive activities. On the other hand, in the agricultural society in Africa, women play considerably active role in the productive activities. In spite of the stereotype of gender roles which exist in all societies, in reality, women may be participating equally in the so-called masculine work, such as agriculture, unskilled work in factories, etc. In the same manner, men quite often assist women folk in domestic work, especially amongst the nuclear families in urban areas where both husband and wife work. Gender-related studies. Systematic interest by social scientists in gender-related studies has been very recent. The most widely researched field is the socialization process, which differentiates between men and women in almost all societies and produces what are called masculine and feminine roles, images, behavior patterns, and tasks. In other words, it helps in producing stereotypes of male and female. For example, in several societies, women are considered submissive, passive, and dependent as if these were inborn traits, whereas the masculine traits are active, aggressive, and independent. Again, the division of labor is along gender. For example, housekeeping tasks are assigned to women, and most of the external public and production-related tasks are given to men. Yet, there may be differences among different tribes. See, for example, Muria. You may have observed that girls have to be obedient, submissive, not only to parents but also to their brothers in most Indian families, not outgoing or to take initiative. They are given elaborate instructions on what dress to wear and on what occasion. There is emphasis on modesty. They are not expected to laugh loudly, although the situation may be changing in metropolitan cities. However, the situation goes back to square one at a time of a girl's marriage, even in the most enlightened families. In many families, they are discouraged to take subjects at school which involve hard work, science and mathematics, or which are likely to lead to a career, for example, medicine or engineering. It may be so even in families where sons are not doing as well in studies as are the daughters. Even then, the sons will be encouraged to take up courses like science and other professional courses. When parents can afford to spend only on the education of one child, even in Delhi or Chennai, etc., the chances are higher that the son will be sent for higher education instead of the daughter. Sexual discrimination. This is discrimination based on the social expectation that a girl from the upper and middle class will not be working even though a large number of them are working in the metropolitan cities these days. Also, that they will get married and become full-time housewives and leave their families. Since parents, grandparents, friends, teachers, etc. are agents of socialization, the situation is further complicated because it takes place within the home and is very personal. Again, it takes place through people who are also emotionally involved in the process. It is further complicated by the fact that boys and girls like to approximate their behavior to that expected by parents, since it is likely to make the latter happy. They would also not like to offend those whom they love, that is, the significant others. The discussion of socialization and sex roles is linked to that of stereotypes and discrimination. When social roles are assigned on the basis of gender, which results in discrimination or puts unreasonable limitations on women, then it needs to be questioned. The other words used in this context are bias, sexism, and stereotyping. Although each has separate meanings, these terms underline the discriminatory treatment given to and inferior position assigned to women in society. For example, men are considered superior to women, and women are denied access to positions of power. Some well-known examples of discrimination are paying women less than men for the same jobs and denying them educational opportunities and certain jobs because of their sex. It may be illustrated with the fact that in agriculture, women laborers are paid less than their male counterparts. Again, boys may be encouraged to go in for higher education because they will bring higher income to the family. But this may not be the case of girls in a majority of the families. Such discrimination is rooted in stereotyping, mental picture held in common by members of a group. It represents an oversimplified opinion and judgment about the members of a group, be they women, Hindus or Negroes. Therefore, when we said earlier that society socializes the newborn infant or that it socializes the child into becoming fit member of the society, we refer to certain traits which are expected of all members of society regardless of whether they are boys or girls, Hindus or Muslims, villagers or urbanites, tribals or non-tribals. The task of socialization is undertaken by various agencies. However, we have focused on the family since it is the primary agency of socialization. Mass media and socialization. In contemporary societies, the means of mass communication such as the books, radio, newspapers, films or cinema, records and video are very potent sources of socializing those who are either their readers or the listeners or the viewers. These mass media, especially the films, the radio and the television, simultaneously communicate the same message to a nationwide audience cutting across all boundaries. Therefore, its impact on socialization is crucial. Here we are concerned basically with the message that is conveyed, the images that are projected because they form the content of the socialization process through the mass media and the impact of the message and the images. Thus, for example, the specific questions in the context of gender and socialization will be, what are the images of men and women portrayed on the mass media, especially on the television? In the context of the rural population, we may ask, what are the images of the rural folk and is the message relevant for the villages? Is their image really representative of their experience? And if that is so, which part of village India does it represent? Or what is the impact of violence in films on the children? Similar questions can be asked with reference to all the dimensions that cut across Indian society. Observe at least 5 children between the age group 5 to 10 years in your neighborhood for at least 2 days. Write a report of about 1 page on impact of mass media on children's behavior in your society. Compare your answer with other students. Another question which is of general relevance would be, which is or the most important media and for whom? For example, while television in India has become the most important medium for almost everyone in India, comics are important for the children in the metropolitan cities, while the video and now cable TV, computer CDs and internet communication has become a rage among the elite families even in the rural areas. Messages in mass media. However, the crucial question in the context of socialization is related to the message as well as the image. Scientific studies on media use and media impact are few and far between in our country. Very recently, the images of women in the textbooks and the comics as well as in the films and television and their impact on children have attracted the attention of scholars and social activists. For instance, most school textbooks portray women as being housewives and men as bread earners. Experts are arguing that this is not true in so far as the lower income strata are concerned, since women in these strata always work to earn money to meet the basic necessities of life. Moreover, even the middle class women in big cities are nowadays working in order to meet the high cost of living as well as the rising social expectations arising out of higher education. Thus, the portrayal of women's images should reflect this reality. Most studies on media conducted in other cities have either focused on television or have concluded that television is the predominant medium used by children, although other important media exist. Examples: comics, books, films, etc. Watching television has become a central leisure time activity all over the world and remains a major source of leisure time gratification. We shall discuss television as only one example of socialization through the mass media. While some of the points raised here will be applicable to other media as well, certain others may not be relevant. Impact of television. Television contacts the viewer directly through its message and does not involve social and interpersonal interaction. Moreover, it is embedded in another agency, namely the family, since it is generally viewed at home. It can propagate values in contradiction to those rooted in a specific social context. Its message may also get distorted because a large proportion of our population is illiterate and lives in the rural areas while the programs are oriented to the urban viewer. Thus, the values and behavior patterns transmitted through it may be in conflict with those upheld by the parents. Parents react to this in several ways, such as rigorous control of viewing, especially on Sundays or during the examination, and not permitting the watching of certain programs, example, late-night adult movies. However, the child's peers or friends at school or in the neighborhood will influence him or her by discussing specific programs. Teachers may also comment on them. In addition, parents have no direct control over the content of the programs. What are the dominant concerns of the studies conducted in other countries? Most focus on children as the audience and the effects of television on children. The most widespread view of socialization through the mass media is that it contains harmful experiences, particularly for children, but also for families in general. Some refer to the hypothesized tendency of television and even cinema to incite young people to crime and violence. Although these studies are only speculative, they are pointers to further research. So far, the impression you may get is that the impact of television is only unidirectional or one way. While it is true that its impact is direct, it is not devoid of the social context. Viewing is a social activity insofar as it is done within the home and in the presence of family members. Viewers comment on programs favorably or unfavorably. The interpersonal elements of other viewers are important as much as are the timing and the physical environment. Therefore, television is one element in an interlocking system. It does not exist in a vacuum and its effects are mediated and modified by the social context of viewing. In other words, the reaction to the program is determined to some extent by the fact that you are watching it along with your parents or not, and whether you are watching it at home or outside, and so on. The market. Kids can recognize logos by 18 months, and before reaching their second birthday, they are asking for products by brand name. By 3 or 3.5, experts say children start to believe that brands communicate their personal qualities. For example, that they are cool, strong, or smart. Upon arrival at the schoolhouse steps, the typical first grader can evoke 200 brands. And he or she has already accumulated an unprecedented number of possessions, beginning with an average of 70 new toys a year. As these statements of facts by sociologist Juliet Score illustrate, one of the first identities children understand they have and integrate deeply into themselves is that of consumer. In other words, more than at any other point in history, the market has become a significant agent of socialization. An entire business sector has developed globally to turn children into consumer as early as possible and then at every stage of the development. She calls this process the commercialization of childhood. The commercialization of childhood is accompanied by two other phenomena: the increase in children's purchasing power and kid influence, the increasing influence children exercise on adults' purchases. Worldwide, kid influence is estimated to have topped rupees 100,000 crores. The commercialization of childhood exploded in the 1980s along with the mass media. Advertising companies soon understood that children-specific media, such as Nickelodeon, could generate vast revenues. Using the expertise of child development specialists, psychologists, anthropologists, and sociologists, they set out to develop advertising targeted specifically at children of different developmental ages. The goal was to understand children's developmental needs, such as sensory stimulation, and to send the message that such needs can be best fulfilled through consumption. Growing up became learning to consume. In addition, according to SCORE, marketers use advertising tools specifically in the direction of children, as you can see in the following table. Advertisers are fairly candid about the values promoted by their advertising campaigns to children. Juliet Score quotes one of them: "Advertising at its best is making people feel that without their product, you are a loser." Kids are very sensitive to that. If you tell them to buy something, they are resistant. But if you tell them that they will be a dog if they didn't, you have got their attention. You open up emotional vulnerabilities, and it's very easy to do with kids because they are the most emotionally vulnerable. These different advertising strategies produce controversial effects. For instance, the marketing of a cool drives a wedge between adults and children by presenting parents and teachers as incompetent and uncool and therefore easily tricked and exploited for personal gain. Age compression encourages age-inappropriate behavior. One of the explicit goals of advertisers is to create a world where there is no space that is not colonized by advertising, so that there is no escape. With this goal in mind, advertising companies have started to colonize public schools through Channel 1, a network of educational programs loaded with ads that teachers are not allowed to fast forward through. Similarly, food and beverage companies pay underfunded schools to introduce vending machines whose products consist mostly of junk food and soft drinks. Moreover, friendship itself has been commercialized. Advertising companies recruit children and teenagers as well as college students and pay them to get their friends to try and adopt various products. SCORE cites the examples of the Girls' Intelligence Agency, GIA. The agency created a network of 40,000 girls or secret agents from 8 to 18 ready to generate buzz for any product. The GIA's trademark is the slumber party in a box where an agent invites her friends over, but the real goal is to feature and promote particular products such as movie or CD, beauty products. As payment, the agent and her guests receive free samples. Other agencies pay stipends to their agents. The strategy here is to teach children that friends are a source of income and products. By invading private relationships, advertising agencies try to overcome the resistance that most people have developed towards traditional ads. By colonizing non-commercial relationships, they have opened a new front in the commercialization of everyday life and the growing construction of a global commercial self. Conclusion. Socialization as a lifelong interactive process of cultural learning involves different types of social actors. Agents of socialization are the individuals, groups, and institutions that create the social context in which socialization takes place. It is through agents of socialization that individuals learn and incorporate the values and norms of their culture as well as their various positions in the social structure in such terms as class, race, and gender.